In this unit, we will learn how to export our work for screen. More specifically, we will learn how to export our work for any kind of digital application. Off we go! I have this file here with 3 different artworks on 3 different artboards. So I'm gonna go to File, Export, and then select Export As. It's gonna pop me up in this panel here where I can select where I want to save my file. And then again, we have the option to select the format that we want to save our file at. We have various different formats, but we are not really using all of them. Some of them are for very specific occasions, so I'm just gonna talk you through the most important ones that you are gonna need. Else your client or whoever you need to deliver the file at, it's gonna give you instructions on what exactly he or she needs. The 2 most important file formats are the JPEG here and the PNG. The JPEG is a compressed file of an image, which means that it has small file size and it has still though really good quality. The PNG is very similar to the JPEG format, but the difference is that it can keep a transparent background. So let's get started with the JPEG. And then underneath we have again this option to select if we want to use all artboards or a range. And I would strongly advise you to select the all artboards, else it's gonna export a new kind of artboard, if we can describe it this way, which is gonna include all 3 images, which is not what we want, else we would have created already a bigger artboard including all of them. And you can select all or range, so I want to export all 3. And in case that you want to export a range, let's say 1 and 3, you can add 1, 3. But yeah, let's go with all of them at the moment, saving at the desktop, and then I press export. On this panel here, I can define the color mode, which is preset on RGB, as my file is already in RGB format. You can change the quality. I would leave it at the maximum unless you really need to achieve a smaller file size. And then you can change the compression method. Again, I would leave it to the standard unless you're instructed differently. And the resolution, which in case we are exporting for screen, go ahead and use the screen option. The medium one is in case that you don't feel like even if you're exporting something for screen, it's not really great as a quality, or you want to export something for a presentation or something like that, and you don't really mind that your file size is going to be a bit bigger, go ahead and use also the 150. After you're done with these options, you just press OK and you will see on your desktop here that you got all 3 images exported as JPEGs. Now back to our file, if I'm gonna go ahead on my layers, disable the layer that has the background colors, now our illustrations have a transparent background. So let's go ahead and try to export some PNGs to see what do I mean with a transparent background. From the format dropdown, I will select the PNG, I will select use artwords, export, and again I will have a panel very similar to the JPEG asking me about the resolution and also showing me if I want my illustration to be transparent, white background or black background, which in this case I wanted to keep it transparent. I'm gonna press OK, and again going on my desktop I can see how my illustrations have been exported with a blank background. These 2 are the main functions for exporting your work for screen, so using either JPEG or PNG. Another way to export your work for screen is to go to File, Export, and then Save for Web. And this is usually the best way in order to export your work for web, so you can have the best quality and the smallest file size. From here you can select the format that you want to export, so PNG, JPEG or GIF, so let's go ahead with a JPEG in this case here. And you can select if you want it to be optimized or not. You can select the compression quality from this drop down menu. And here it sacrifices the image quality for better compression. I would most likely leave those ones as they are, just in case that you need something very specific, you can go ahead and change the values. from the middle part here, you can define the width and the height of the image in case that you want to change it. And feel free to navigate through this panel, which gives you also some tools in order to preview your graphic, for example, such as the zoom tool. And once you're happy with these settings, you just press save and your artwork will be saved on the specific place that you selected. I would suggest to use that panel in case that you want to export your work for web, else I would perhaps use the export as function instead. Another thing that I wanted to talk to you about is the pixel perfect artwork. Even if this illustration here looks nice and sharp, if you export it, you'll notice that you will get some blurry kind of edges. So if you want to prevent that, you can go to View and then Pixel Preview to actually see how it's gonna be exported, which you see now already the problems that is kind of blurry, and you can see the connections of this squares that I used in order to create it and so on. In order to solve this issue, it's quite straightforward. You select your object, you click on this button here which is Align Selected Art to Pixel Grid, and it perfectly aligns your artwork to the pixel grid, which means that your image is going to be nice and sharp. So you can see how it sits perfectly in the pixel grid when you zoom in, and it's nice and sharp on any scale. So I would strongly suggest to have the pixel preview on and enable this little button here, perfectly align your artwork to the pixel grid while you're creating any kind of illustration. In order to go back to the overprint preview where we were before, you just click View and then Overprint Preview. Now that you learned how to export your work for screen, in the next unit we are going to explore how to also export it for print.